It was a calm Monday morning at Crestview High School, the kind of morning that started slow but carried a quiet hum of excitement. Students hurried through the hallway, the sound of lockers slamming and sneakers squeaking filling the air. Some chatted about the weekend, some rushed to finish homework before the first bell, and others just wanted to get the day over with. Among the crowd walked Alana, the new girl. She kept her head down and her step steady, moving with quiet confidence. She didn't speak much and never tried to fit in with the usual groups. Her posture was straight, her gaze sharp yet calm, and her presence had a strange stillness to it, like she carried a world of her own inside. She had transferred to Crestview just a few weeks earlier, and already people had started to notice her. Not because she talked or tried to impress anyone, but because she didn't seem to care about being noticed. There was something about the way she carried herself, disciplined, composed, distant. Most students thought she was just shy. But what no one knew was that before stepping into that high school, Alana had lived a completely different life. She had served in the Navy. Years of tough training had taught her control, focus, and silence. She had learned how to handle pressure, fear, and pain in ways no ordinary teenager could imagine. After leaving the service, she wanted to start over, to have something normal. She enrolled at Crestview to finish her education quietly, hoping no one would dig into her past. She just wanted to blend in, finish school, and move forward. But high school was not kind to those who stood out. From her first day, Alana felt the tension. Some students were friendly enough, offering smiles and small talk, but others, especially the loud, confident ones, treated her differently. They whispered about her looks, her quietness, and how weird she seemed. It didn't bother her much. She'd seen worse things in life than gossip. But one girl in particular seemed determined to make Alana's life difficult. Her name was Brittany, one of those girls who ruled the hallways like she owned them. She was loud, popular, and used to attention. Her parents were well known in town, and she made sure everyone knew it. Brittany wasn't used to being ignored, and Alana's calmness felt like an insult to her. The first few times, Brittany tried to tease Alana lightly, expecting a reaction. When Alana didn't respond, she pushed harder. She made comments about Alana's hair, her clothes, even her quiet nature. Alana would just smile slightly and keep walking, which made Brittany furious. To Brittany, silence felt like defiance. At lunch, she'd whisper things loud enough for Alana to hear. In gym class, she'd roll her eyes when Alana finished first on the running track. And when teachers praised Alana for her discipline or work ethic, Brittany's jealousy only grew deeper. Alana noticed all of it, but she didn't respond. Her training had taught her that reacting to provocation gave power to the aggressor. She focused on her goals and kept her head down, reminding herself she wasn't here to fight battles like before. Still, even with her composure, there were days when the loneliness hit her. She'd sit in the back of the classroom, listening to the soft hum of conversations she wasn't part of. She missed her old team from the Navy. The sense of belonging, the loyalty, the trust. Here, everything felt shallow, like people wore masks just to survive high school drama. Her favorite class was science. It was quiet, focused, and logical. Just the kind of environment she could lose herself in. She liked working on experiments and understanding how things worked. It gave her a sense of control and peace. Her science teacher, Mr. Hale, had quickly noticed Alana's dedication. She always arrived early, double-checked her notes, and stayed after class to clean up. He appreciated her discipline and often said she reminded him of his days in the military. Alana would smile politely at that, never confirming or denying anything. She didn't want anyone knowing about her past life. One Wednesday morning, the class was assigned to new lab partners. The groups were shuffled randomly, and fate decided that Alana would be paired with Brittany. The moment the teacher announced it, Brittany groaned dramatically. "Seriously? With her?" she said loud enough for the whole class to hear. A few students laughed nervously. Alana just nodded, pretending not to notice. Mr. Hale ignored the remark and told them to start the day's experiment on chemical reactions. Alana moved to the lab table and began setting up the equipment neatly. Brittany arrived a moment later, tossing her bag on the counter, rolling her eyes. For the first few minutes, things stayed quiet. Alana carefully mixed the base solution, following the instructions step by step. Brittany scrolled through her phone, pretending to be bored. When Alana asked her to measure the next sample, Brittany sighed and said, "You do it. You seem to enjoy playing teacher's pet anyway." Alana didn't reply. She focused on her task, keeping her emotions steady. Brittany couldn't stand it. She wanted a reaction, something. So she started whispering under her breath, mocking Alana's calm nature, her serious tone, and even her posture. But when Alana continued to ignore her, Brittany's patience snapped. She reached across the table suddenly and pushed one of the beakers toward Alana's side, spilling a bit of liquid on the counter. "Oops," she said with a fake smile. "My bad." Alana took a deep breath, grabbed a cloth, and began cleaning it up carefully. "It's fine," she said softly. That quiet response somehow made Brittany even angrier. She leaned in, her voice sharp. "What's your problem, huh? Think you're better than everyone?" Alana didn't look up. "No, I just want to finish the experiment," she said calmly. A few students nearby turned to watch. They could sense the tension rising. Mr. Hale had stepped out for a moment, leaving the class unattended. Brittany smirked, knowing she had the attention she wanted. "You think ignoring me makes you tough?" she said. "Say something. Or are you too scared?" Alana finally looked at her, not with anger but with quiet steadiness. "I don't want trouble," she said. Something about that tone, firm but peaceful, set Brittany off completely. She slammed her hand on the table, startling a few students. "You think you can just walk around here acting all calm and perfect?" The room went silent. Alana stayed still, eyes fixed on the experiment equipment, refusing to rise to the bait. Brittany stepped closer, her voice lowering into a hiss. "You think you're strong? You're nothing." Then she did something no one expected. In a flash of temper, Brittany reached forward and grabbed Alana by the collar, shoving her back against the counter. The movement was fast, fueled by pure anger. A few gasps echoed in the room. Before anyone could react, Brittany's hand shifted upward, fingers brushing dangerously close to Alana's throat. For a split second, time froze. The class stood frozen, unsure what to do. Some students looked shocked, others pulled out their phones, half in fear, half in disbelief. Alana didn't move. Her breathing slowed, her gaze sharpened. Her body recognized the threat before her mind did. The instincts that had been buried deep inside her came alive, but she didn't strike. Not yet. She didn't want to hurt anyone. She just wanted this to stop. "Let go," she said quietly. Her tone wasn't loud, but it carried weight. It wasn't the voice of a scared student. It was the voice of someone who had been in far worse situations. For a moment, Brittany hesitated, her grip loosening slightly, confusion flickering in her eyes. Something about the calmness in Alana's voice made her step back instinctively. She didn't understand it, but she felt it, a strange power behind that stillness. Before anyone could say more, the door opened. Mr. Hale walked back in, stopping short at the sight of the tense room. Brittany quickly stepped away, pretending to adjust her sleeve. Alana stood still, breathing evenly, not saying a word. The teacher looked around. "What's going on here?" No one spoke. The air was thick with silence. Alana simply shook her head and said, "Nothing, sir. We just finished the experiment." Mr. Hale looked suspicious but didn't press further. He told everyone to clean up and return to their seats. As the class resumed, whispers spread quietly from table to table. No one fully understood what they had just seen, but they all felt something strange, that the quiet girl they thought was weak wasn't someone to mess with. And for the first time, even Brittany didn't know what to say. The next morning, the whole school seemed to buzz with whispers. What happened in the science lab had become the main topic of conversation. No one knew exactly what went down, but the story had already grown wild in the hallways. Some said Alana had flipped Brittany over the table. Others said she shouted and scared her into backing off. Only the students who were there knew the truth, and even they weren't sure what to think. Alana walked through the hallway quietly, her face calm as always. She could feel the eyes on her. Some students looked at her with curiosity, others with respect, and a few with fear. She didn't like any of it. She had hoped to blend in, to be invisible. Now it felt like she was under a spotlight she never wanted. When she reached her locker, she noticed a few notes slipped through the vents, small pieces of paper with words scribbled in messy handwriting. Some said things like, "You're awesome," or "Teach her a lesson again." One even said, "Are you a spy or something?" She sighed softly and threw them away. She didn't want to be seen as some kind of fighter or hero. That part of her life was supposed to be over, but Brittany wasn't done. She hadn't forgotten the embarrassment she felt when everyone saw her lose control. All her friends had started acting different around her, whispering, avoiding her eyes. Even her best friend Tina had said quietly, "You went too far." It made Brittany furious. She felt humiliated, and in her mind it was all Alana's fault. That day at lunch, Brittany sat at her usual table surrounded by her group. They all pretended to scroll through their phones, unsure how to act. Finally, Brittany slammed her tray down. "You all believe that story, don't you?" she snapped. "You think she scared me?" No one replied. Brittany clenched her jaw. "She's not special. She just got lucky. I'll show everyone who she really is." Tina looked at her, hesitating. "Maybe just let it go, Britt. It's not worth it." "You could get in trouble." Brittany glared at her. "She made me look like a fool. You think I'll just let that slide?" When the bell rang, she left the cafeteria with one thought burning in her mind. She needed to get even. That afternoon, in science class, Alana sat quietly taking notes. The room was peaceful again, though she could sense a strange energy behind her. Brittany sat 3 seats away, pretending to focus, but her glare kept flickering toward Alana. Mr. Hale was explaining an experiment when he got a call from the front office and stepped out for a few minutes. The moment the door closed, Brittany leaned over to her friends and whispered, "Watch this." She picked up a small plastic vial from the desk, harmless, but filled with a foamy mixture. With a smirk, she tossed it toward Alana's workstation. It burst on contact, splattering blue liquid across the counter and onto Alana's notebook. A few students gasped quietly. Alana froze for a second, staring at the mess, then calmly reached for a paper towel. She began wiping it off without saying a word. Brittany laughed under her breath. "Oops, guess I need to work on my aim." The room filled with nervous laughter, but not everyone joined in. Some students just looked uncomfortable. Alana didn't look at her. She kept cleaning, her face expressionless. Inside, she was trying to stay calm. Her instincts told her to confront the problem, but her heart told her to walk away. She reminded herself this was just a high school. This wasn't war. When the teacher came back, the class fell silent again. The rest of the period passed uneventfully, but Alana could feel the tension like a weight pressing on her shoulders. After the bell, as everyone packed up, Brittany brushed past her desk and whispered, "Don't act like you didn't deserve that." Alana looked up at her, then really looked. Her eyes met Brittany's, calm and steady. "You should stop before you hurt yourself," she said quietly. There was no threat in her voice, just simple truth. But Brittany took it as a challenge. Her face turned red with anger. "You think you're tough, huh? Wait till everyone sees who you really are." Then she stormed out, leaving Alana sitting there with her damp notebook in quiet frustration. That night, Alana sat by her window at home, staring out at the dark street. Her mind was restless. She missed the discipline of her old life, where problems were solved with logic and teamwork, not petty drama. She had faced real danger in the past, missions, storms, sleepless nights. Yet somehow this high school nonsense felt heavier in its own way. It wasn't physical danger. It was emotional. She knew she could handle it, but she also knew she had to be careful. The world outside didn't understand what military training did to someone, how it changed the way you thought and reacted. She didn't want to slip back into that mindset. Still, deep down, she knew Brittany wasn't finished. The next day confirmed it. As Alana entered the hallway, she noticed students gathered around their phones, whispering and laughing. Her name floated in bits and pieces through the air. When she got closer, she saw what they were looking at. A photo, taken secretly in science class, showing her wiping the spilled mixture from her notebook, with a fake caption added, "Crying after getting yelled at." Brittany had posted it online the night before. The caption wasn't cruel in words, but it carried mockery, and in high school that was enough. Comments filled up fast, most of them jokes. Some were supportive, but others called her names or made fun of her quiet nature. Alana's chest tightened for a moment, not with anger but disappointment. She had hoped people were better than this. She put her phone away and kept walking. By midday, the post had spread across the school. Brittany walked around with a proud smile, surrounded by a few students who laughed with her. But something about her smile seemed forced, almost nervous. Deep down, she could feel that she had crossed a line. During lunch, Mr. Hale called Alana to his office. He looked at her with concern. "I heard there's some trouble going around online," he said gently. Alana nodded. "It's fine, sir. I don't want to make it worse." He studied her expression, seeing something deeper there, strength, maybe even restraint. "You're handling this better than most would," he said. "But you don't have to go through it alone. If it gets worse, come to me." She gave a small nod and thanked him before leaving. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. A few students who had stayed quiet before came up to her in the hallway. One of them, a tall boy from her class, said softly, "Hey, that photo. We know it's fake. You didn't do anything wrong." Another girl added, "Yeah, Brittany's just jealous. Everyone can see it." Their kindness surprised Alana. It wasn't much, but it reminded her that not everyone followed the crowd. She thanked them sincerely and walked away, feeling a little lighter. But Brittany noticed it too. She saw how some students had started talking to Alana, how sympathy was shifting in her direction. And it made her furious. That evening, she gathered her closest friends at her house. "She's turning people against me," she said bitterly. "I'm not letting that happen." Tina sighed. "You're making it worse, Brittany." "Just stop." Brittany looked at her coldly. "You can leave if you're not with me." The room fell silent. No one dared argue. The next morning, Brittany arrived at school with a plan, a final stunt that she thought would put Alana in her place once and for all. She told her friends to record what would happen in the science lab later that day. She didn't realize that her plan would backfire completely. As the class settled into their seats that afternoon, Alana felt a strange energy again. Her instincts were sharper than usual, a quiet awareness telling her that something was off. She noticed Brittany's phone peeking out from her sleeve, camera light faintly blinking. She knew what was happening, and she knew how to handle it. When Mr. Hale began explaining the experiment, Brittany made her move. She stepped closer, pretending to look at Alana's notes. Then, without warning, she spilled a beaker of colored water across the table, soaking everything. "Oh no," she said in a fake gasp. "I hope you don't start crying again." A few students chuckled nervously. One held up their phone. Alana looked down at the mess, then up at Brittany. This time she didn't just stay silent. She spoke clearly, her tone firm but calm. "Brittany, stop," she said. "You've gone too far." The laughter stopped. Her voice carried across the room, steady and confident. Brittany blinked, caught off guard. "Or what?" she said, trying to sound brave. Alana met her eyes. "Or you'll find out that peace isn't weakness." The words hung in the air. Even Brittany's friends lowered their phones. There was something in Alana's voice, quiet power that didn't need to shout. Just then, Mr. Hale turned around and saw the spill. His brows furrowed as he asked, "Who did this?" No one spoke, but everyone looked at Brittany. For the first time, she didn't know what to say. And as the teacher began cleaning up the mess, the balance of power in that classroom quietly shifted, and Brittany had no idea that the next few days would turn her world upside down. The day after the second lab incident, things at Crestview High felt tense. The laughter and gossip that usually filled the hallways had quieted down. Everyone seemed to be watching what would happen next between Alana and Brittany. The air carried a strange mix of curiosity and unease. Alana walked through the corridor with her usual calmness, her steps steady and unhurried. She didn't look left or right, even though she could feel eyes following her. Her only goal was to make it through the day without drama. She had learned to survive chaos before, but this was different. It wasn't about strength or survival. It was about keeping her peace in a place that thrived on conflict. When she entered the classroom that morning, a hush fell over the students. Brittany was already there, sitting in her usual spot. Her face looked pale, her expression unreadable. She avoided Alana's gaze. Mr. Hale entered right after and began class as if nothing had happened, but everyone knew something had changed. The teacher's tone was tighter, his patience thinner. He had seen the spilled beaker the day before and had his suspicions, though he hadn't said anything yet. Midway through the class, he paused his lesson. "Before we start today's lab," he said, "I want to remind everyone that respect is not optional in this classroom. We work together here. If I see any more nonsense, I'll make sure the principal hears about it." "Understood." The room was silent. Everyone nodded. Brittany shifted in her seat. Alana simply said, "Yes, sir," quietly, and continued taking notes. After class, Alana stayed behind to help clean up. Mr. Hale watched her carefully arranging the equipment and finally said, "You don't have to stay every day, you know." She gave a small smile. "I don't mind. It helps me focus." He nodded, then asked gently, "Are you all right, Alana?" "You've handled things calmly, but I can tell there's more going on." For a moment, she hesitated. Then she said, "I've dealt with worse, sir. I just want to move on." Her words carried a quiet strength, the kind that made people listen. Mr. Hale didn't press further. "All right," he said softly. "But if anything else happens, come to me first. Don't try to handle it alone." She nodded again, grateful for his understanding. Later that day, Alana sat alone on a bench behind the school during lunch. The fall breeze rustled the leaves around her, bringing a bit of peace after a long morning. She watched students laughing and talking in groups nearby. Part of her wished she could join in to feel normal again, but another part of her was used to solitude. She had spent years on missions where silence was survival. Being alone didn't scare her anymore, it grounded her. Still, she couldn't shake the thought that Brittany wasn't done. People like her didn't back down easily. She was right. That afternoon, Brittany met with the principal. She had decided to twist the story again, claiming Alana had threatened her. She spoke dramatically, using half-truths and exaggerated gestures. The principal listened quietly, then said, "We'll review the classroom footage before making any decision." That one sentence made Brittany freeze. She didn't know there were cameras in the lab. Her plan began to crumble right there. By the next morning, the entire situation had shifted. The principal had reviewed the video and seen the truth. He called both girls into his office. Alana entered first, calm and polite as always. Brittany came in a few minutes later, trying to look composed but clearly nervous. The principal looked at them both seriously. "I saw what happened," he began. "Brittany, it's clear that you initiated both incidents. Alana didn't retaliate or provoke you. This behavior is unacceptable." Brittany's mouth opened, but no words came out. "I'm suspending you for 3 days." The principal continued firmly. "And you'll write a formal apology? We don't tolerate bullying here, no matter who it's directed at." Brittany's face turned red. She wanted to protest, but there was nothing she could say. She had been caught when they were dismissed. Alana quietly stood and said, "Thank you, sir." She didn't look at Brittany as she walked out. For the first time since coming to Crestview, she felt a small wave of relief. Maybe things would finally calm down. But the story didn't end there. That afternoon, someone leaked a snippet of the security footage online. It wasn't the full video, just enough to show Brittany spilling the beaker and Alana standing calm as a statue. The short clip spread quickly through the student body. Comments poured in. "Can't believe Brittany did that. She's insane. Alana didn't even flinch. She's like a statue." It didn't take long before people outside the school picked it up too. The clip spread to social media pages in the community. Parents started sharing it, praising Alana for her restraint. The attention grew faster than anyone expected. By the end of the week, a local news station had contacted the school asking for a statement about the incident of bullying caught on camera. The school tried to keep things quiet, but it was too late. The clip had already become a symbol of strength and calm under pressure. Alana, however, didn't like the attention. She avoided interviews, refused to speak to reporters, and told everyone who asked that she just wanted things to go back to normal. But that wasn't going to happen anytime soon. When she walked down the hallway now, students looked at her differently. Not with pity or mockery anymore, but with respect. Some greeted her with a smile. A few even asked for advice or help with assignments. Even teachers started treating her with quiet admiration. Mr. Hale mentioned her composure during class as an example of how to deal with pressure. Still, Alana stayed humble. She never brought up what happened. She just kept studying, focusing on her work, and spending her quiet moments behind the school, where the world felt a little more peaceful. Meanwhile, Brittany spent her suspension at home scrolling through her phone, watching the comments pile up. The more she read, the worse she felt. The world that once cheered her on now criticized her. Friends stopped replying to her messages. Her phone buzzed with notifications, most of them harsh. At first, she tried to defend herself, posting a long message about how the situation was misunderstood, but no one believed her. Eventually, she stopped posting altogether. The silence on her page said more than words ever could. When she returned to school the following week, her confidence was gone. She walked quietly, keeping her head down, the same way she used to mock Alana for doing. The irony wasn't lost on her. She saw Alana by her locker one morning and hesitated. She wanted to say something, but her throat tightened. Guilt weighed heavy on her chest. Finally, after days of silence, she found the courage. During lunch, she walked up to Alana, who was sitting alone at a table in the corner. Alana looked up, surprised. "Hey," Brittany said softly. "Hey," Alana replied, her tone polite but distant. Brittany took a deep breath. "Look, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. For everything. I went too far. You didn't deserve any of that." Alana studied her face for a moment as if searching for honesty. Then she nodded. "Thank you," she said simply. Brittany expected anger or sarcasm, but there was none. "Just quiet forgiveness. I wasn't trying to embarrass you," Alana added. "I just wanted peace. We all have things we're dealing with. I hope you find yours." The words hit Brittany harder than any insult could. She nodded slowly, unable to speak. Then she walked away quietly. After that, the tension between them began to fade. They didn't become friends, but the hostility disappeared. Brittany stopped talking about her, and the rest of the school eventually moved on to other gossip. But one thing had changed permanently. People had learned something from watching how Alana handled the situation. Her calm strength became a quiet lesson. Teachers started mentioning her in talks about respect and resilience. The principal even brought her up during a school assembly about handling conflict. Alana didn't enjoy the spotlight, but she understood that maybe this was her purpose now, to remind others that true strength didn't come from fighting or shouting, but from knowing when to stay calm and stand firm. As she walked home that afternoon, the sun setting behind the trees, she felt lighter than she had in months. The shadows of her past life, the noise, the chaos, the endless battles, seemed to fade with the fading light. For the first time, she felt like she truly belonged somewhere. Not because people feared her, but because they respected her for who she was. And even though she knew life would always bring challenges, she also knew she could face them, quietly, calmly, and with the same steady courage that had carried her through every storm before. The next few days at Crestview High were anything but ordinary. The fight that had happened in the science lab had turned the entire school upside down. No one could stop talking about it. Whispers filled the halls, and rumors flew faster than facts. Some students claimed that the new girl had flipped Brittany across the table. Others said she had used some kind of secret spy move she learned in the military. The truth, of course, was much simpler and quieter than the wild stories being told, but people always preferred drama over reality. Alana didn't speak much about what happened. She came to school the next morning as if nothing had changed. Her calmness only added to the mystery around her. She sat in her seat, focused on her work, ignoring the stares and whispers. A few classmates who had seen everything approached her quietly during lunch, thanking her for standing up for herself. They admitted they had always been scared to speak out against Brittany, who had bullied students for years. Alana just smiled and said softly, "Sometimes silence gives power to the wrong people. You have to decide when enough is enough." Meanwhile, the story had reached the teachers and parents. The principal, Mr. Daniels, called both girls into his office for questioning. Brittany showed up with her parents, who looked furious before even stepping inside. They had always believed their daughter could do no wrong. Alana came alone, walking in quietly, her posture straight and calm. The tension in the room was heavy. Brittany's mother started speaking before the principal could even sit down. "My daughter was attacked by that girl," she said sharply. "I want her expelled immediately. We will not tolerate violence in this school." Mr. Daniels raised his hand gently. "Please, let's hear both sides before making any decisions," he said. He turned to Alana. "Do you want to tell us what happened?" Alana nodded slightly. "She grabbed me by the throat, sir," she said in a soft but steady voice. "I just defended myself. I didn't hurt her. I only used enough force to stop her from doing it again." Brittany jumped in. "That's not true. She pushed me first. She's lying." The argument could have gone on forever, but the principal interrupted. "We have cameras in every lab," he said. "Let's just watch the footage." The room fell silent as he played the recording on his computer. The video clearly showed Brittany shoving Alana first and then reaching for her neck. It also showed Alana's quick but careful move to escape without causing any harm. There was no denying what happened. Brittany's parents froze in embarrassment. Mr. Daniels sighed and leaned back in his chair. "It's very clear what happened," he said firmly. "Brittany, you'll be suspended for a week for physical aggression. Alana, you acted in self-defense. You won't face any punishment." Brittany's face turned red as she stormed out of the office with her parents. Alana thanked the principal quietly and walked out. She didn't smile or celebrate. She just looked relieved that it was finally over. But what she didn't know was that this was only the beginning of a much bigger story. Later that evening, a student who had access to the lab's camera footage posted the short clip online. Within hours, it began to spread across social media. People were amazed by Alana's calm reaction and precise movement. They couldn't believe a high school girl had handled such a situation with that much control. Some even started calling her the calm defender. By the next morning, the video had thousands of views. Students who had ignored or laughed at her before now looked at her differently. Some were curious, others were impressed, and a few even felt guilty for the way they had treated her. Even the teachers seemed to hold a quiet respect for her. The school had seen many fights before, but never one handled with such control and grace. During lunch, a group of students approached her table. A boy from the basketball team spoke first. "Hey, that video, everyone's talking about it." "Is it true you used to be in the Navy?" Alana nodded. "I went through training before I came back home. I wanted to finish school after serving," she said. The group went silent for a moment. They didn't know what to say. Then one of the girls smiled and said, "That's actually really cool. You handled it like a pro. Brittany has been bullying people for years. No one ever stood up to her before." Alana smiled politely. "I didn't want to fight," she said. "But sometimes you have to stop things before they go too far." Her quiet wisdom impressed them even more. Word spread quickly that the mystery girl was a trained Navy veteran who had served her country before returning to school. The story grew, and soon even local reporters wanted to interview her. One morning, as she arrived at school, she found a news van parked outside. The reporter, a kind-looking woman with a microphone, approached her. "Hi, are you Alana?" she asked. "We'd love to hear your side of what happened. Your story has inspired a lot of people online." Alana hesitated. She didn't like attention, but she realized that maybe sharing her story could help others understand what real strength looked like. So she agreed. The interview was simple and honest. She didn't talk about the fight much. Instead, she spoke about self-control, respect, and handling conflict with discipline. She said she didn't want anyone to see her as a hero, but as a reminder that peace is always stronger than anger. The interview went viral within days. Parents, teachers, and students from other schools started sharing it. They called her brave not for what she did physically, but for how she stayed calm and never let anger take control. Even veterans online commented, saying they were proud of how she represented their values. Back at school, the principal asked her to speak at an upcoming assembly. "I think your story could really help other students," he said kindly. "This school has been struggling with bullying for a long time. You could make a difference," Alana agreed, though she felt nervous about speaking in front of everyone. On the day of the assembly, the gym was filled with students, teachers, and even parents. The atmosphere was tense but curious. When Alana walked up to the microphone, the room went silent. She looked around at all the faces, some supportive, some skeptical, and began to speak in her calm, steady voice. "I didn't plan for what happened in that lab," she said, "but I've learned that we all have moments where we have to decide what kind of person we want to be. I didn't want to fight. I wanted to walk away. But sometimes standing up for yourself isn't about fighting. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to be treated less than you deserve." The crowd listened quietly. Her words weren't loud or dramatic, but they carried weight. She talked about her time in the Navy, how discipline and respect were taught as the foundation of strength. She said she hoped no one would ever have to experience what she did. But if they did, she wanted them to remember that calm doesn't mean weak, and silence doesn't mean powerless. By the time she finished, the entire gym stood and applauded. Even the teachers had tears in their eyes. It wasn't the speech of a student. It was the voice of someone who had lived, learned, and found peace and strength. After the assembly, many students came up to her, thanking her for her words. Some admitted they had been bullied and had felt helpless, but hearing her made them feel stronger. The principal later told her that the school was introducing new programs to address bullying and teach conflict resolution. He smiled and said, "You've started something good here, Alana." She smiled back, grateful but humble. She didn't want fame or praise. All she wanted was for others to feel safe, to believe they could stand up for themselves without violence or hate. As the weeks passed, the tension in school slowly faded. Brittany stayed quiet after returning from suspension. She avoided Alana, but deep down, something had changed in her too. She no longer carried the same arrogance she once did. Alana noticed that and hoped it was the beginning of growth. For the first time, Crestview High began to feel like a community instead of a battlefield. Students started helping one another. Small acts of kindness appeared where once there had been teasing and gossip. Alana often sat by the window during lunch, quietly watching everyone laugh and talk, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. What happened in that science lab had shaken the school, but it had also opened eyes. It had shown that courage didn't always look loud. It could be calm, quiet, and deeply human. And in that calmness, Alana had reminded everyone of something simple but powerful, that true strength doesn't come from the body, but from the heart. The weeks after the school assembly brought quiet but powerful changes to Crestview High. It wasn't sudden or loud, but the shift could be felt everywhere, in the hallways, in classrooms, and even in the way students spoke to each other. People who once laughed at others' mistakes started helping instead. Teachers noticed it too. It was as if the whole school had taken a deep breath and decided to grow up a little. Alana never took credit for it. She didn't see herself as a hero or someone special. She still arrived early, sat near the window in class, and spent her breaks reading or working on projects in the science lab. But now, instead of sitting alone, she often had company. Students who used to ignore her now came by to talk, asking for advice or just wanting to share their thoughts. Some even asked her to help them prepare for the physical training tests for college or sports teams. One morning, as she walked down the hallway, a younger student stopped her. He was small, probably a freshman, and looked nervous. "Hey, I just wanted to say thanks," he said softly. "I saw what happened that day. My sister goes here too, and she used to get picked on a lot, but after your speech, people stopped bothering her. So as a thank you," Alana smiled gently. "You don't need to thank me," she said. "You just keep standing up for what's right. That's how things really change." Moments like that made her heart warm. She had gone through so much pain in life, loss, discipline, long nights in the cold during training, but hearing that she had helped someone, even in a small way, meant more to her than any medal she had ever earned. The principal called her into his office a few days later. He smiled warmly and said, "You've made quite an impact here, Alana. The district board heard about your story. They want to start a student-led mentorship program across schools, and they'd like you to help lead it." Alana was surprised. "Me?" she asked softly. "Yes, you," he replied. "You've shown everyone what true leadership looks like. It's not about power. It's about calm, integrity, and compassion. You have all of that." She agreed, though she felt nervous about taking on such a role. But when she started meeting younger students from other schools, she realized how much good could come from it. She listened to their stories about bullying, fear, and loneliness. She shared how she had struggled too, and how staying calm and believing in herself had helped her through dark times. The students listened, inspired not by her strength but by her honesty. Back at Crestview, Brittany had been quiet since coming back from suspension. She kept her distance, no longer surrounded by her group of friends. Most of them had turned their backs on her after the video went viral. For the first few weeks, she avoided eye contact with everyone. But one afternoon, when Alana was heading out of the school library, she heard someone call her name softly. "Brittany." She looked nervous, holding her books tightly against her chest. "Can we talk for a minute?" she asked. Alana nodded. They stepped aside near the lockers. Brittany took a deep breath, her voice shaky but sincere. "I know I don't deserve to say this," she began, "but I wanted to apologize. For everything. I was wrong. I thought being tough meant being feared, but I was just being cruel. And I'm sorry for what I did to you." Alana watched her carefully. There was no anger left in her, only understanding. "It takes courage to say that," she replied. "We all make mistakes. What matters is what you do after." Brittany's eyes watered slightly, but she nodded. "Thank you. I'm trying to do better." From that day on, things slowly changed between them. They didn't become close friends, but there was mutual respect. Brittany started volunteering at the mentorship program, helping younger students who were struggling with confidence. Sometimes Alana saw her staying late after school, tutoring or cleaning up the classroom. It was clear she was trying to make things right. Months passed and the school year began to draw to a close. The warm days of spring made everything feel lighter. Seniors prepared for graduation, and Alana found herself reflecting on how much had changed since the day she first walked into Crestview High. When she arrived, she just wanted peace and to blend in quietly. She never expected to become someone others looked up to. At graduation practice, the principal approached her with a special request. "The board wants you to give a short speech at the ceremony," he said with a smile. Nothing formal, just a few words from the heart. Alana agreed, though she felt a bit of stage fright. On the day of the ceremony, the entire gym was decorated beautifully. Families filled the seats cheering for their children. The energy in the room was bright and joyful. When it was Alana's turn to speak, she walked up to the stage in her simple graduation gown, her hair tied neatly back. She took a deep breath and looked at the crowd. "I came here wanting to disappear," she began. "I wanted a quiet life, away from the noise and pressure of the world. But life doesn't always give you what you expect, it gives you what you need to grow. This school taught me that strength isn't about being loud or being in control of others. It's about kindness, discipline, and knowing when to stand up for what's right." She looked around at the faces watching her. Teachers, parents, classmates, even Brittany sitting quietly in the audience. "We all face moments that test us," she continued. "Sometimes it's not about winning. It's about staying calm, choosing peace, and remembering who you are. That's the kind of strength that lasts." The audience stood and clapped. Some wiped away tears. Even the teachers looked emotional. It was a simple speech, but it carried the kind of honesty that stays with people long after the moment passes. After graduation, Alana was offered a position in a veterans mentorship organization. They wanted her to work with young people who had experienced trauma or bullying, teaching them resilience and self-respect. She accepted, seeing it as a chance to keep helping others heal and grow. Before leaving Crestview for good, she visited the empty school one last time. The halls were quiet, the classrooms locked, the sunlight slipping through the windows. She walked into the science lab, the place where everything had changed. Standing there, she felt a wave of calm. There was no anger left, no bitterness, only peace. She placed her hand on the lab table and smiled softly. "Thank you," she whispered, to no one in particular, maybe to life itself, for turning pain into purpose. Outside, she ran into Brittany one last time. They shared a small smile. "Take care," Brittany said. "You too," Alana replied. As she walked away from the school, the breeze brushed against her face. The world outside felt wide and open again. She knew her journey wasn't over. It was just beginning in a new way. She had gone from a silent new girl to someone who taught others the meaning of strength. In the months that followed, the mentorship program she helped start expanded across several schools. Stories of her calm courage inspired others to act with kindness and control. Her message became part of the school's culture. Teachers often quoted her words during assemblies. "Calm doesn't mean weak, and silence doesn't mean powerless." Years later, when people talked about Crestview High, they didn't remember it for the fights or gossip that once filled its halls. They remembered it for the moment everything changed. The day a quiet girl stood up for herself and showed everyone what true strength really looked like. Alana's name became a quiet legend at the school. New students heard her story and found comfort in it. Some said she reminded them that even when life feels unfair, you can still choose peace. Others said her story made them brave enough to stand up for others. And somewhere out there, Alana continued her work, visiting schools, speaking to young people, and helping them find their inner calm. She never raised her voice or bragged about what she'd done. She didn't need to. Her presence alone carried a kind of peace that made others believe in themselves. Her life had come full circle, from silence to purpose, from pain to healing. The world still had its share of cruelty and chaos, but Alana had learned something powerful. One calm heart could change more than 1,000 angry voices. And that truth, the quiet, steady truth, was what made her story unforgettable. Months had passed since Alana's graduation from Crestview High. Life had started moving at its usual pace again, But for her, nothing felt ordinary anymore. After leaving school, she had joined a small community program that worked with teenagers who struggled with confidence and anger. The program was run by a group of veterans who understood discipline, patience, and the importance of mental strength. Every morning, Alana would wake up before sunrise. She would go for a short run, just like she did during her Navy days, and then sit quietly on her porch, sipping coffee while the sky turned from gray to gold. That calm, early morning silence reminded her of everything she had learned: control, patience, and the strength that came from stillness. One day, she received a letter in the mail with the school's official seal. It was from Crestview High. When she opened it, she smiled. It was an invitation to return as a guest speaker for their new annual event called Courage Week, which had been inspired by her story. The school wanted her to talk to the students about resilience and self-respect. She hesitated for a moment. Even though she had spoken publicly before, Crestview held memories that were both painful and healing. But then she thought about how much the school had changed, and how returning could be a chance to close the circle. She agreed to come. When she arrived at the school months later, the halls looked the same, but the atmosphere felt lighter. The walls were filled with new posters about kindness, teamwork, and leadership. Students smiled as they passed one another. The principal, Mr. Daniels, greeted her warmly. "You have no idea how much this school has changed because of you," he said. As they walked toward the auditorium, she noticed a familiar face standing by the door. It was Brittany. She looked different, calmer, more grounded. She was now working part-time as a volunteer counselor, helping younger students with social issues. She smiled and said, "Hey, stranger, I guess life really does come full circle, huh?" Alana smiled back. "Looks like it does." They shared a brief moment of silence, both remembering the day everything changed in that science lab. But there was no bitterness now, only mutual understanding. Inside the auditorium, hundreds of students waited eagerly. When Alana walked onto the stage, the crowd cheered. She waited for them to settle, then began to speak in her soft, steady voice. "I was once where you are now," she said. "I walked these same halls, sat in these classrooms, and faced moments that tested my patience and strength. What happened here changed me, but it also showed me how much one person's choices can influence others." She talked about the importance of self-control and kindness, about how real courage wasn't about fighting but knowing when not to. Her words were simple, but they struck deep. When she finished, the entire room stood and clapped, not because she was a hero, but because they saw themselves in her story. After the event, dozens of students came to speak with her. Some shared their struggles, others just wanted to thank her. One young girl said quietly, "I used to think being quiet made me weak, but now I see its strength." Alana smiled, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Never mistake calm for weakness," she said. "The strongest people don't always shout." Later that afternoon, as the school day ended, Alana walked out to the courtyard. She saw Brittany sitting alone on a bench. The sun was setting, and the golden light touched everything softly. Alana walked over and sat beside her. "I've been thinking a lot about that day," Brittany said. "It used to embarrass me so much. But now, I think it was the best thing that could have happened to me. It woke me up." Alana looked at her kindly. "We all have moments like that. The important thing is what you do afterward. You learned from it, that's what matters." Brittany nodded. "I'm studying psychology now. I want to help kids who've been through bullying, both the ones who get hurt and the ones who cause it. Sometimes the ones who hurt others are just trying to hide their own pain." Alana smiled. "That's a good path. You'll do well."